Oh, it feels so good to be back doing another post game after a real basketball game. Y'all know I'm so hyped that Heat basketball is back, although I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I wasn't that locked in tonight because you had so much going on in South Florida sports. I mean, outside of the Heat kicking off the preseason, you also had Inter Miami with Sergio Busquets retiring at the end of the regular season. You also had the Florida Panthers win their preseason game like 8-0, which is crazy. But of course, more importantly, you have the Miami Hurricanes, number 3 team in the country, who may even get a little bit higher after kicking FSU's ass, regardless of a little shaky ending there. But anyways, while y'all was watching Desmond Bane, I was watching Ruben Bane, and it was a fun one. I actually just finished uploading my Hurricanes post-game video, so for all my Canes fans out there, make sure y'all go check that out on my channel and subscribe while you're there. But anyways, I did also tune into the Heat game, had the Canes game on the TV, Heat game on the laptop, so I was able to lock into both because there was a lot of interesting things that I wanted to check out today, mostly just in terms of the starting lineup and the new guys, Powell, Fontecchio, and we did end up seeing a little bit of everyone and quite a lot of the Exhibit 10 guys who I was excited to see because of course I posted a lot of videos breaking down those players. So we'll get into the game a little bit, although my notes aren't very extensive just because, you know, I had other priorities tonight. What do you want me to say? I don't feel bad because the Heat will play the Magic like another 2 times in the next couple of weeks. It's ridiculous. They played the Magic today in Puerto Rico, and then they play them again in like 7 days, I think, in Orlando, in another preseason game. And then they play them again 10 days later. Of course, the first game of the regular season, which you can actually already see the odds on FanDuel, the first sponsor of today's video. Right now, the Heat are actually 8.5-point underdogs at plus 265. So right now, I feel kind of good about it. I know we really didn't see either team play their normal lineups today, of course, but the Heat played pretty well, you know, regardless of the ending there. The Heat were up big in the first half, you know, when the actual starters were playing. So maybe it makes you feel a little bit better about the Miami Heat. We will see these 2 teams playing another preseason game, like I said, in like a week. So we'll see. Because right now, you can get the Heat plus 265 to beat the Magic opening night. I think those are pretty good odds. I'm certainly going to throw a little bit on it because I'll be at the game, so it'll make it even more interesting. I did already get my tickets, and of course, you know I did that by using the sponsor of today's video, Game Time. The Miami Dolphins are in midseason form. The Florida Panthers are hungry to repeat as champions again. The Miami Heat finally tip off with real basketball later this week, and the Miami Hurricanes look like a powerhouse with trenches that are must-see TV. But even better than watching on TV is to be a part of the action live and in person, and there's no better way to do that than with the sponsor of today's video, Game Time. In fact, I just used Game Time a couple weeks ago when I went to see the Miami Hurricanes dominate the Florida Gators, and I'm really glad that I went because the stadium was electric and finding my tickets was as easy as a Ruben Bane sack. And that's because Game Time has an extremely friendly user interface that allows you to see a panoramic preview of what your view will look like from your actual seats. And the price is always shown with fees included, so no more hidden costs popping up at the last second. So if you want to see some Heat preseason ball that's tipping off just later this week, or want to see Tyreek Hill one more time in person before the Dolphins inevitably trade him, make sure to download the Game Time app today or go to gametime.co and sign up using my promo code CLNS. That's promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It's as quick as a Gustav Forsling slap shot. Simply swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. But enough of the sponsor talk, although I do appreciate y'all support. I think this will be the last video with the Game Time sponsor, just to give y'all a little bit of behind the scenes. I was on a little bit of a trial run, and if the videos do well, maybe it could be a long-term thing in addition to the FanDuel, which so far you guys have shown a lot of great support on as I continue this journey to maybe be, you know, a full-time content creator one day. That'll be the goal. But right now, I just enjoy making videos. And of course, I greatly appreciate the support that a lot of people are watching and enjoying. So I just wanted to say thank you. And if you're new here, new for this Heat season, make sure to subscribe. I'm on the grind to hit 10,000 subs. That'd be a beautiful day. Anyways, going into this Heat game, the Heat played pretty well in the first half. that's my analysis. There's a few plays we'll get into. I think I want to kind of run through the box score and talk about each guy a little bit and what we saw tonight. But then they did have a third quarter. I'm hoping that's just because the only starter who played in the second half, I think, was Jaime Jaquez, who had a rough one tonight. Not what you wanted to see from the guy who kind of needed a little bit of a bounce back, needs to kind of get his mentality right. You didn't want to see him come in the first preseason game and not perform well, but it's only one game, so I'm certainly not overreacting. But in that third quarter, the Heat got outscored 8, got outscored 11 in the fourth quarter. So they ultimately would end up not winning the game, but that's not really what you care about. You don't care about the win-loss in this stuff. You kind of care just about how everyone looks. We'll start with Andrew Wiggins, who was probably the best player for the Heat today. A little bit surprising because I feel like a guy who's he's probably been the guy who's the most overlooked Heat player coming into this season, just because we're all kind of assuming that if he is here by the end of this year, it will be his last year here. We all assume they're going to find some way to trade him. He'll be an expiring contract next year. So we're kind of assuming he'll be gone in some regard, whether it's a trade or even if he opts out of the next year of his deal, it is a player option. We all either assume that or we've been assuming he's going to go to the Lakers. There's been so much smoke about that this past offseason that most Heat fans aren't even really taking into account that he's still a really productive player. And in terms of fit, it's kind of exactly what the Heat need in that 3 spot in terms of a 3-and-D guy who could provide some offensive help to Tyler Hero and Bam. And I guess Norman Powell also provides that offensive help. But you need a guy like Wiggins to help juice an offense a little bit that was pretty lackluster last season. And today, Wiggins played really well. 11 points for him, 4-6 shooting. He was 2-2 from the three-point line. But more importantly than just the numbers, I can't help but to see a little bit of our guy. Where's he at? Back here. A little bit of our guy, Jimmy Butler, who I'm still getting comments telling me to take this jersey down. I'm not going to do it. Jimmy's my guy. This is not a sign of how bad things ended. It's a sign of the good times. So I'm showing respect to Jimmy. And of course, a lot of the reasons I'm comparing these two is simply because they're both wearing the number 22. And if you kind of squint your left eye and squint your right eye, kind of looks like Jimmy, a little bit in terms of the jersey and the play style, because Wiggins really works that mid-range spot, kind of like Jimmy Butler was able to. I think Wiggins showed a lot of good footwork tonight, whether it was in dribble pull-ups or getting to the basket or whether it was in transition. He had a nice Euro step to start the game today. And Jimmy is a guy who had a lot of great footwork as well. And also in terms of what Wiggins does defensively, he's very active in the passing lanes. Today, he has a nice ripped it right out of the guy's hands, basically like he caused him to fumble, which led to a coast-and-coast, probably the play of the game. I think that led to a Powell to Jovic's lob. Jovic slammed it in. And that started with a Wiggins steal. So just because of his footwork and his aggressiveness in the mid-range and his defensive ability in the passing lanes, there's a lot of similarities there with Jimmy Butler. Of course, the Heat have no Jimmy Butler. It'll be their first season in like 5 years now, right? 6 years. So it's a completely different era of Heat basketball at this point because you no longer have the guy that you could rely on. You knew Jimmy was coming back in the game in the fourth quarter. He was going to get you free throws. He was going to slow the game down in the fourth quarter. The Heat no longer have that guy to rely on. So it's going to have to be a mix of a bunch of other guys, and I think Wiggins can help fulfill that role a little bit. Although he's a severely watered-down version of Jimmy Butler. No disrespect to Wiggins. Wiggins is a great player, but Jimmy was one of them guys, especially in the postseason. So I give Wiggins a lot of credit for having a nice game today because he got a lot of flack from a lot of Heat fans, including myself, for last year. Wasn't healthy a lot. When he did play, he had some okay games, but for the most part, he wasn't great. He just didn't look happy out there. But we know how much he had going on in his personal life. He just had a kid that was born a week before getting traded. So I'm willing to give him benefit of the doubt. He definitely seems a lot more happy now. You're seeing videos of him smiling, pictures of him smiling, said all the right things at media day. And through one preseason game, he's played pretty well. That's enough on Andrew Wiggins. I needed to give him some credit after being a little bit hard on him last year. Moving on to Nikola Jovic, Mr. Moneybags. Of course, the guy got his big extension just a couple days ago, and it was nice to see him come in today and show some actual improvements and also show his versatility. We saw him go in transition. We saw him even had a couple nice passes. Maybe the other play of the game is he hit a nasty step-back 3 over Paulo Banchero. Just had another level of confidence out there, and he looked good today. Finished with 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, hit a 3-pointer as well. I don't want to talk too much about him just because we made a whole video a couple days ago when he got his extension. But yeah, he's a guy that I think most Heat fans are probably the most excited about. You know, I'm listening to Locked On Heat and 5 Reasons and Tobin, and whenever those guys are asked, hey, who are you most excited to see this season? Everybody's answer is Jovic, and of course, rightfully so, because he's a guy who, in terms of skill, has the most potential. 6'10", can handle, can shoot, do all these other things. So he's a guy I'm looking forward to seeing, and hopefully he's one of the few guys that once Miami pays, they get better. You know, Duncan Robinson had a rough year after he got paid. We know about Hassan Whiteside. Bam Adebayo got off to a slow start this past season right after signing his extension. So I look for Nikola Jovic to have a hot start. And he started the game, too. Is that an indication of he'll start the regular season? Maybe. You know, a few months back, I thought Khalil Ware would start. But then once Tyler Hero did go down, I said, hey, I think they may actually shift to starting Jovic now just because they're going to need more of an offensive punch without Tyler Hero. And if today's any indication, yeah, Jovic will probably start the season at the 4. Moving on, you got Bam Adebayo, 7 points, 5 rebounds for him, 0 of 5 from the field, but more importantly, he was 7 of 8 from the free throw line. You want to see that aggressiveness from him. I think the next step in his game is continuing his aggressiveness in terms of shot making, but also trying to get back to the rim touches a little bit, because last season, I love the 3-point shooting growth from him. But now he's got to work on the balance between getting those jump shots, but also using your freakish size and athletic ability to take advantage of mismatches and getting to the rim. I think towards the end of the last season, it started to shift too much to a little bit jump shot happy Bam. So now I want to see him continue to work to get to the rim. And 8 free throw attempts today is a clear sign of his aggressiveness. And then you got Norman Powell, first game in the Heat jersey, 13 minutes for him, 5 points and an assist. It was a lob to Jovic. Only 2 of 6, hit 1 3. It was a nice deep one out of isolation. But Norman Powell's a guy who's been doing a lot of talking this offseason, especially as of late. Has said he thinks the Heat could win a championship, which a lot of guys are saying. Davion Mitchell, Bam Adebayo. So they're kind of taking after Jimmy in that regard in terms of the irrational confidence. But Powell's also saying he thinks he could be an all-star. He was a role player a lot of his career, but he can be so much more. So we'll see. He's 32 years old. It'd be kind of weird to see a guy at 32 all of a sudden becomes a perennial all-star type. But hey, he was a borderline all-star last year. So we'll see what Norman Powell brings this season. And I like his confidence. You know, I'm not hating on it by any means. And then you got Jaime Jaquez, played 20 minutes, played almost the most minutes tonight outside of Ethan Thompson and Kashad Johnson. But 6 points for him, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal. Stuffed the stat sheet a little bit, but he was 2 of 7 from the field. He just looked a little sloppy out there. You know, he had a couple drives where his shot got absolutely swatted, just didn't look too comfortable. Couple of really ugly turnovers too, and there's a reason Spo decided to start him in the second half, is because Spo probably saw the same thing. So rocky start for Jaime Jaquez, but that doesn't change my opinion that I think he will have a bounce back season a little bit. You know, a lot of it's going to rely on his shooting to really open up the inside game. And today Jaquez was 1 of 2 from 3. So at least he did hit one of them. And if he can do that consistently, that will open up everything as we progress through the season. Moving on to the bench here, Fontecchio also got 20 minutes himself, 9 points for him, 3 of 6 overall, but 1 of 4 from 3. I look forward to seeing if he can continue to bring the shooting dynamic that you lost from Duncan Robinson. Of course, they're different kinds of shooters. Even Eric Reed made that point. So I understand Fontecchio is not a run off the screen type of guy. He can also do a little bit more. But they're going to need him to shoot the ball at a high rate this year because the Heat don't have a lot of snipers. I mean, outside of... He's really like the only person I would say is a shooter outside of Tyler Hero, I guess. Oh, Norman Powell, too, of course. So not a lot of guys who can be considered shooters. He has to be one of them. But overall, he was fine tonight. Drew Smith. I don't know if I've ever done this in a video before. Standing ovation for Drew Smith, ladies and gentlemen. Standing ovation for Drew Smith. Listen, what is not to love about Drew Smith? The man has season-ending injury after season-ending injury. He has the whole fan base hating him for years at a time. You know, he comes into last season, we're hating on him because we signed him instead of Dame. I guess that was 2 years ago, but then they bring him back last year, and then all the fans are hating, and then he plays great, and then he gets hurt, and then he comes back today, ready for the preseason. How the hell he got back so quick, I don't know. And then he balls out. Balls out in the preseason first game. Today he had 7 points, 1 rebound, a steal, and 2 blocks, 3 of 5 from the field. He was a menace on the defensive end. And the kind of fortitude that he shows is truly inspiring. I listen, I'm not, wrong no more. I was a Drew Smith non-believer a few years back, but last year I publicly admitted that I was converted to Drew Smithyism, meaning I'm a full believer in Drew Smith. And so far through one preseason game, he continued to show that grit and hustle that is why I converted to a lover of his last season. Lover is a weird term. Let's stay with believer, I think. But even today, he hit the floor like 2 times, dove for a loose ball where he almost turned it over. He dove for the loose ball. Earlier in the game, he stripped the guy almost immediately, dove on the loose floor to get possession, started a fast break for the Heat. He continues making plays every time he checks into the game. And I can't say enough nice things about him. It is so obvious why the Heat front office continues to bring him back to this team. He's awesome, and he will be a legitimate rotation piece for the Heat this year as probably the backup point guard, because they don't really have a true facilitator. I think he could be serviceable, though, at least definitely to start the season, because I didn't even mention the Heat had a lot of injuries in the backcourt coming into today. Of course, no Tyler. Pella's been banged up for a while. You had Kasparis spraining his hand, unfortunately, because I would have liked to see him get a lot of run now with the regulars, but he sprained his hand. Davion Mitchell got an injury coming into today. So a lot of injuries in the guard rotation. But shout out to Drew Smith for playing well. I'm actually excited to watch him play basketball. I'm a fan of his for sure. Keshad Johnson today played 22 minutes, 8 points for him. Had a nice little reverse dunk. He shot 4-6. He had I was going to say rough summer league. Not rough, inconsistent summer league, which made me a little bit hesitant on how much run he'd actually get this season. He won't be a regular rotation player, but I do think there'll be spots where they could use his defensive versatility, and I'm just curious to see. It more so depends on how well he plays when he gets his minutes, so he can show Spo if he deserves more minutes. Today, he did play relatively well. We know going into the season, one of the things the Heat want to focus on offensively is pushing pace. We saw that a lot today with Powell and Jovic. But Keshad is a guy who is probably the best transition player on the team, I guess, outside of Jovic. So, yeah, he's a guy that if the Heat really want to push pace, they might find some time to get him some minutes just to speed things up. Certain spurts throughout the game, because he's definitely a fun player to watch in transition. Then in terms of the Exhibit 10 guys, Ethan Thompson, 26 minutes, 5 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, only shot 1 of 6 from the field. But overall, he's a guy that we've discussed in the past. I have a video dedicated solely to him. And, the rest of the two-way guys also, if y'all want to check that out for more information, if you're not as familiar with them. But Ethan Thompson's a guy that was a pretty good scorer last year in the G League, I think, for the Orlando Magic. And he's got a lot of potential, as sort of a facilitating shooter type of player. And it was interesting to see him get the most minutes tonight, too. That might be Spo's favorite Exhibit 10 guy right now. And, of course, the Heat have a two-way spot open, so maybe they're looking at him. They could also be looking at Trevor Keels, who I put out a tweet, I think 2 days ago, saying Trevor Keels is about to shock a lot of people in pre-training camp. So far, I'm right. The man today was very good. 16 minutes for him, had 12 points, an assist, 2 rebounds, 4-4 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3. And the reason that I was so optimistic about him is because he's a very skilled offensive player and shot the ball pretty well last year. But defensively, he's a dog. He seems like the exact type of player that I think the Heat would love in their system. And if he can continue shooting the ball at a pretty high rate like he did last season, I think he's a guy that will be on this team next year. So, we'll have more preseason games to get into these Exhibit 10 guys and two-way guys. But for now, remember the name Trevor Keels. Outside of him, you also have Myron Gardner, one of their other two-way players, versatile, switchy four. He had 10 points, albeit inefficient. Jameer Young, 7 points for him. More of a shifty scoring guard himself. And then I guess I didn't even mention a couple of bigs. Precious Achiuwa, non-guaranteed deal, signed a couple weeks ago. We're obviously familiar with Achiuwa's game. 5 points, 4 rebounds for him. And then Khalil Ware, I apologize. It took me so long. I went through all the Exhibit 10 guys before talking about Khalil Ware. His name skipped my eyes here, but he was very active today, even in transition and rebounding. Had some nice finishes around the rim, missed a couple as well, but he looked active today. And with Ware, that's the most important thing. You want to see 10 points and 9 rebounds for him on 4 of 10 shooting. And did he hit a 3? Yeah, he hit a 3 as well. 1 and 2 from the 3-point line. So, even if he comes off the bench, You know, it seems like his mindsets has been right, you know, the right mindset so far. Makes me happy to see. That being said, we know that he played the Magic a few times this season. I did notice on FanDuel that you can actually get the Heat to win the Southeast Division at plus 1,700. I might throw a little bit on that too, because right now they got the Magic in first. They have minus 185 odds. I get it. Very good defensively. You got a couple of stars in Franz and Paolo. They just added Desmond Bane, but those guys got injury concerns, you know. Same with the Hawks, who they have in second at plus 180. They just signed Porzingis, who's got a lot of injury concerns too. I know they got some other players like Nikhil, who I like a lot as well. But if things break right for the Heat, and if these guys play to their potential, I could see the Heat winning the Southeast Division. And at plus 1,700, maybe it's worth throwing a couple of bucks on. But anyways, that's all I got to say for this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm just realizing I didn't even talk about the other bigs, Vlad Golden and Dane Danger. Y'all know I love Dane Danger. He won't make this team. But let me know your thoughts on Vlad Golden. He's got one of the two-way spots now, but it's very clear from watching him in Summer League and then this game today, he's very slow. And as much as I think he's a great guy and a hard worker from everything that I've heard, his slow foot speed just makes him such a liability out there that I'm not even sure if his two-way spot is safe. But let me know your thoughts down on him below. And if not him, who would you like to see the Heat get his two-way contract? Maybe is there another big out there that you like outside of Kai Jones, because he already signed overseas. But let me know your thoughts down below. Anyways, make sure to like the video, subscribe. All that good stuff is greatly appreciated. Looking forward to the rest of the basketball season, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.